There aren't many cities like Busan, South Korea's second largest city on the southeast coast with a population of 3.3 million people, with some absolutely breathtaking beaches, amazing food, and incredibly modern infrastructure. I've lived in Korea for over 11 years and visited Busan at least once or twice every year, and I've seen most of the popular tourist destinations. So here's my guide for first-time visitors that includes over 20 amazing things to do here, including the traditional, the modern, and even some breathtaking nature to explore. Put together in a 4-day itinerary you can find in the description that'll take you to places all over the city to see the amazing beaches, eat some incredible local cuisine, and explore the traditional side as well. We'll also show some tips on how to get to Busan and when to visit at the end of the video, so stick around if needed. Let's get started with day 1, at Korea's most famous beach area called Haeundae. Haeundae-gu is the name of a southeastern district of Busan, named after Haeundae Beach, which is a 1.5-kilometer long beach with amazing white sands and crystal clear water, shallow enough for anyone to enjoy, all surrounded by luxurious skyscrapers, as it has become Busan's Gangnam, and pretty much the most expensive place to live in the city. Let's assume you take an early morning high-speed KTX train from Seoul to Busan, which we'll explain later in the video, and you arrive at Busan Station. To get to Haeundae from there, first download Naver Maps on your phone, then you can follow the itinerary link in the description and use the Haeundae Beach Naver Maps link to either get there by subway or bus, depending on what you prefer. You can take the subway from Busan Station by following the signs to the metro, then take orange subway line number 1 to Seomyeon Station, transfer to green line number 2, and ride to Haeundae Station, where you can walk out exit 3 or 5 to head to the beach. Or you can take bus 1001 or 1003 found outside Busan Station exit 6 and 7, which goes there directly. You can also use the Kakao Maps link to take a taxi there, or to any of the places in this guide, which you'll first need the app Kakao Maps and Kakao T if you live in Korea, or k.ride if you're visiting. Then click the Kakao Maps link in the itinerary, open up the public transportation directions in Kakao Maps, scroll down until you see the Kakao T taxi icon, click it, and this will open up either Kakao T or k.ride to easily take a taxi to your destination. Just make sure you find a good place on the side of the road to take it, and make sure your departure is set to exactly where you're standing. And double check the license plate number when it arrives. Now there's a reason why we're going to Haeundae first, as I believe many travelers will be in the middle of their sightseeing trip around Korea, checking out the traditional and modern culture in Seoul, and arrive at Haeundae and Busan, and just think, why not just relax here for my entire Busan trip? And with the vast number of hotels for different budgets, restaurants with tons of different kinds of food, including vegetarian, vegan, and halal food, found easiest by searching on Google Maps, which shouldn't be used for everything in Korea, but it's useful for people with specific diets, and also to book hotels using international websites and credit cards. And back to Haeundae, it's one of Korea's top tourist destinations for a reason, as it's a comfortable place for anyone to travel to, including those with families with smaller children, and also English can be used pretty much anywhere. Between Haeundae Station and Haeundae Beach, you can find a big walking plaza with tons of restaurants and entertainment. And if you want to try some local cuisine here, I recommend going to Haeundae Obok Daejigukbap and try Daejigukbap, or pork soup and rice, the food that originated in 1938 before the Korean War in the city of Miryang. With this dish, you put the rice right into the white broth made from pork bones, which is highly customizable by adding seujot or fermented shrimp, and you can spice it up a bit with tadegi, add salt and pepper, and buchu or chives to get the broth tasting exactly how you like it. For one of the most savory dishes in Korea, and also one of my top 3 current favorite dishes here. There are also tons of international restaurants at Haeundae if you want something else, so just browse Naver Maps to find what you want. The obvious thing to do at Haeundae is swim at the beach, and you can rent umbrellas, mats, and beach chairs, which won't be cheap, and if you go during July or August, or weekends in June or September, expect there to be massive crowds of people, since it's the most famous beach in the whole country. But it's famous for a reason, and I'd say it's still worth it for most people. There's also an aquarium called Sea Life attached to the beach, which I've never been to, but gives families with kids something extra to do. And then there's the Club D Oasis, which is a water park and spa, an observatory called Busan X the Sky to see some nice views of Haeundae and Busan. And for those interested in a nice little walk with some history, you can walk west of the beach to Donbaeksom Island, which is home to the Nurimaru APEC House, the venue for the 2005 APEC Summit, where you can learn a bit about how the leaders of various countries met up to discuss various issues in the Asian Pacific, with some nice views that look out into the ocean. At nighttime, Haeundae comes to life, with a ton of nightlife to enjoy, including the Galmegi Brewery, which has some of the best craft beer I've tried in Korea, and the Haeundae Market with a ton of different street food, little shops to eat at, and gift shops to enjoy. You can also walk west to the Bay 101, a yacht club with various restaurants and cafes, with patio seating and a nice view to end the first day. On day 2, if you've decided not to spend your whole trip at Haeundae Beach and explore more of Busan, we're gonna broaden our scope a bit and see more of the Haeundae district. And this is where you can choose between 3 different types of days, all ending at the same place for dinner time. One for the sightseer, the relaxer, and the family. For the sightseer, you can walk east of Haeundae Beach to Haeundae Blue Line Park. Here, there are 2 different types of trains to take. The first being the Haeundae Sky Capsule, which are tiny little private trains from 2 to 4 people that you're allowed to eat snacks on, and tickets can be purchased on site within 2 hours, but they are almost always sold out, so it's recommended to book online at least a week in advance if possible, or even up to a month in advance during busy season. And just know that the Sky Capsule doesn't get you all the way to Songjong Beach, so you'll either have to take the beach train or walk from Cheongseopo to Songjong Beach if you want to continue this itinerary. To be honest, I don't think the Sky Capsule is necessary, as there is also the beach train that goes between Haeundae Beach and Songjong Beach to give you views of the ocean, which can be booked one way, round trip, or for all the stops along the way depending on what you want to do, and you don't need to book in advance. The stops include different attractions such as the Dalmaji Tunnel, Haewo Skywalk, Cheongseopo, Taritol Skywalk, and more along the trip. If you like walking, then it's about 5 kilometers from Haeundae Beach to Songjong Beach along this amazing boardwalk, which gives you access to the exact same views and attractions as the Sky Capsule and beach train for free, and is by far one of the best walks we've ever done in Korea. Or you can also choose to walk up the hill to Dalmaji Dongsan, or Dalmaji Hill, for a quieter walk along the road with some nice views. Just walk up the hill when you get to the main Sky Capsule station at Mipo Station, and continue up the sidewalk, and you can follow the road all the way up and down the mountain to Songjong Beach if you want, with a nice pagoda at the top if you go up the stairs. Now we have either walked or taken the train to Songjong Beach, Busan's local surfing beach, with beautiful white sand, tons of different local cafes and restaurants, and it's a lot quieter and in my opinion better than Haeundae Beach. So if this is the type of place you think would suit you, consider spending more time here than Haeundae. If you want to surf, you can rent boards at the various shops, or you can even take surfing lessons which you can find on the various travel sites online such as Trazy. Songjong is also home to a little hot dog stand called Songjongdong Hot Dog, which is very simple but perfect for a relaxing lunch to enjoy the beach views. And after grabbing some lunch at Songjong Beach, it's time to head to Busan's most famous Buddhist temple called Haedong Yeonggungsa Temple, which you can either take bus 100 near the east side of the beach, take a taxi by using the itinerary that we talked about earlier, or walk the 2 kilometers there by following the ribbons and arrows of the Haeparang Trail, a 750 kilometer trekking trail that goes up Korea's east coast all the way close to North Korea, and it happens to pass through the temple. Haedong Yeonggungsa Temple was originally built in the late 1300s with the original name of Pomunsa Temple, and was destroyed during the Imjin War during the late 1500s. It wasn't rebuilt until 1930 during the Japanese colonial period, where it would be renamed to Haedong Yeonggungsa in 1975, which means the Dragon Palace Temple on the East Sea. It's getting popular to visit these days for tourists and Koreans alike, but for a good reason, as the architecture built along the ocean cliffs is truly astonishing, almost a perfect harmony between man and nature. And it's still very quiet if you go during the early hours of the morning, creating a very peaceful environment with the calm morning ocean. However, as a side note, there are no temple stays offered here. After visiting Haedong Yeonggungsa, it's time to go to Kwangali Beach by taking bus 1001 directly there. But before we show you that, let's show the 2 alternatives I talked about earlier. For those looking for more of a relaxing day without as much exploration, you could start the day by going to the biggest department store in the world called Centum City, which is just a 5-minute subway ride from Haeundae Station to Centum City Station, and get out exit 10 or 12 for the department store. Here you can spend some time shopping for luxury brands, there's an ice skating rink, a golf range, and movie theaters. But most importantly, Spa Land. Spaland is the biggest jjimjilbang or public bathhouse in Korea, which consists of 22 different baths, 13 different themed saunas that are inspired from countries around the world, a massive area with outdoor foot baths, relaxation rooms, the Shim Spa that costs extra, a section to try various types of Korean ramen or instant noodles with different toppings, and a full-on restaurant. You can spend up to 4 hours there for 25,000 won, which you can get a discount on Naver Maps if you live in Korea, or Trazy if you're visiting. It's so popular these days that it'd be best to come in the early hours of the morning of a weekday, as it gets filled up a lot by 11 a.m., making it harder to find places to sit down and relax inside the saunas. After having a relaxing day at Spaland and shopping at Centum City, it's time to head to Kwangali Beach, and you can get there by taking Green Subway Line number 2 7 minutes to Kumyeonsan Station. But let's check out the final option for the family first. My last recommendation is for family with kids, and that's to visit Busan's Lotte World Adventure theme park, which opened in 2022 and features 17 rides and attractions to spend the day at. To get there, I'd recommend taking a taxi if you're with kids, which should only cost about 10,000 won, or you can take bus 1,001 directly from Haeundae with a bit of walking on both ends of the journey. Personally, I've never been there, so I can't give personal recommendations, but just by looking online, it seems to have a good mix of attractions for different types of visitors. It's also attached to a massive Lotte outlet mall with relatively cheap shopping and multiple brands. So if there are family members that would rather spend the day there, that's also a possibility. Here are the prices for the theme park as of March 2025, which you can get discounts by booking on Klook instead. After your day at Lotte World Adventure, if you have the energy to go to Kwangali Beach still, you can take the Donghae subway line from Oshiria Station to Bexco Station, then transfer to Green Line number 2 and ride until Kumyeonsan Station. Now we end day 2 for the sightseer, relaxer, and family, all at the same beautiful Kwangali Beach. And if you've arrived at Kumyeonsan Station by subway, just walk out exit 5, take a U-turn at the top of the stairs, and then your first right to walk down the main street about 400 meters to get to the beach. Kwangali Beach is especially famous for Gwangan-daegyo, the incredibly beautiful double-deck suspension bridge that opened in 2003 and spans over 7 kilometers. And if you want to spend extra days at Busan or you'd rather do another beach day, you can substitute any other days to spend time at this beach too, which is also great for swimming and relaxing, just like Haeundae. But the true magic of Kwangali Beach is when day turns to night, and the entire strip lights up with some Miami Vice City-like vibes. There are tons of different restaurants, cafes, hotels, bars, and entertainment to keep people of all ages entertained. And here you can find just about any type of restaurant or bar that you can think of. We tried samgyeopsal or pork belly at Muse Kimchi Samgyeop, in which they fry a bunch of kimchi in the middle of the samgyeopsal for an absolute killer combination. Or just open Naver Maps and take a look at the restaurants in the area. And don't take the rating system too seriously, as some restaurants have review events that boost their ratings. So just look at the menu in the pictures, and as long as the ratings aren't too low, then you should be okay. But it's good to know that everything in the area will be a bit more pricey than other neighborhoods in Busan because of the tourist presence. At nighttime, you might get lucky to see a concert on Kwangali Beach, which happens from time to time, and if it's a Saturday evening, you can see a drone show at 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. from March to September, or 7 and 9 p.m. from October to February, which is almost a new take on a fireworks show, and interesting to watch the hundreds of drones making different light shapes in the sky, to end day number 2. On day 3, it's time to get away from the crowds and check out some nature. There are 3 different spots to introduce, and I'll let you pick the one that sounds the most interesting. The first is going on a walk at the Oryukdo Skywalk, a glass observation deck with views of the Oryukdo Islands in southern Busan. To get here, you can take bus 131 outside Kumyeonsan Station near Kwangali Beach if you spent the night there. You arrive at Oryukdo Sunrise Park, and you can see a beautiful park with green hills that overlooks the Oryukdo Islands. And there's a glass skywalk that's free, which unfortunately was closed due to the wind when we went, but even without being able to go on it, we got some amazing views of the island by walking up the stairs just up the hill. And if you want, you can continue for a nice walk through the forest of Igide Park with beautiful views of the ocean, also part of the Haeparang Trail. The trail is pretty narrow with lots of hills and stairs, so this option is only for those that are somewhat fit and looking to get some exercise as well. Option 2 is my personal favorite. for those looking for an exploration through nature along Taejongdae, the cliffed coast. There's no direct route from Kwangali Beach to Taejongdae, so you have to take bus 41 or 42, which leaves close to the beach, and then transfer to bus 101 at Munhyun intersection. And when you arrive, you'll be at a big rest stop area with restaurants and cafes. Just follow the signs to Taejongdae, and then you can choose to walk along the 4.3-kilometer loop or take the Danubi train for 4,000 won if you want to go the more relaxing way. When starting out the walk, you get to choose between the easier or more difficult option. I chose the difficult path, which is a really nice walk through the forest and wasn't too hilly. On the loop, there are some really great places to stop as well, including some quite random ones that aren't really marked. The first is the Taejongdae Observatory, a nice lookout along the cliffs with a cafe attached, and the first time you realize just how big the cliffs really are, looking down hundreds of meters to the ocean floor. It's truly an epic experience, and the reason I recommend Taejongdae the most, for some really grand nature that you don't get to see a lot of in Seoul. You continue walking along the road and arrive at the Yeongdo Lighthouse, which has some more views of the cliffs from a different perspective, and you can even walk into the lighthouse and climb up the stairs for another unique perspective. This is a good workout to see the lighthouse and all that kind of stuff. Kind of feels like walking one of the trekking trails. So yeah, if you're not in good shape, the tram might not be bad to be able to see everything. If you like walking around like this, then it's a really nice walk too. Lastly, there's the Taejongsa Temple, which isn't particularly special if you've seen a lot of temples in Korea, but still worth stopping by for some peace and serenity. Option number 3 is for those who are looking to have a nice walk along the ocean at the Haeundae Culture Village. The easiest way to get there from Kwangali is to take bus 41 to Busan Station and transfer to bus 508 and get off at the Haeundae Culture Village. When you first arrive, you'll be high up in the cliffs, and there are some nice alleyways to start exploring with beautiful views of the ocean. It's said that this is what downtown Busan originally looked like before it became a city of skyscrapers, and if you arrive somewhat early in the morning, it should have quite a peaceful atmosphere. There are a lot of little restaurants and cafes that line the alleyways, so I'd recommend going here for those that are looking for nicer cafes. And outside of them, a bunch of street art painted on the side of the walls, creating a really nice atmosphere for a peaceful stroll that should last an hour or so if you stop along the way. You can also get down to a walkway close to the ocean to round out the walk before heading to the next location. Now after spending some time at one of those 3 areas, it's time to head to what I consider the Myeongdong of Busan, called Nampo. And you can get there by going to Nampo Station on the orange subway line number 1. Nampo was considered the downtown core of Busan until the early 1990s, and the administrative, economic, and social center were all here until Busan modernized. When you leave exit 1 of Nampo Station, you're greeted by streets that look oddly familiar to Myeongdong, with tons of different stores, especially marketed towards tourists looking to buy Korean beauty products, fashion, snacks, or souvenirs. If you leave Nampo Station exit 1 and take the first right, you'll arrive at the Yeongdusan Park entrance and see a series of escalators going up the side of the mountain, which is said to resemble a dragon's head. When you get to the top of the escalators, you'll see some traditional pavilions, statues, and towering above them, the Busan Tower, which almost resembles Namsan's N Seoul Tower in Seoul. Busan Tower has an observatory in it which gives some really great views of the surrounding city, and is quite a bit cheaper than the Busan X the Sky Observatory we talked about earlier in Haeundae, with in my opinion a more interesting part of the city to get views of, where you can see the older traditional houses lining the hills, and the older harbor and fishing boats, which are some of the most important components of Busan's culture and history. After taking in the views, head back down the escalators and walk right or west through the fashion streets until you arrive at the BIFF Plaza, or Busan International Film Festival Plaza, which is a massive film festival held in the fall time every year. The plaza blends the old and the new, with street vendors selling various goods, and best of all, street food. Here you should try siat hotdog, which are sweet pancakes filled with brown sugar filling and seeds, and one of my all-time favorite street foods here, You can also find traditional markets nearby, such as the Gukjae-sijang, or International Market, established after the Korean War when refugees set up stalls here, and it's still going to this day. And a great place to look around for things such as souvenirs and other goods. There's also the Bupyeong Gangtong Market, which has been around since the 1940s. Here you can try some other foods such as tteokbokki or spicy rice cakes, or others as well. And once you're finished in the plaza area, it's time to head south to one of Korea's biggest seafood markets, the Chagalchi Market. Chagalchi Market is located right beside Busanhang or Busan Port, a fishing port that developed during the early 1900s, and its name comes from chagal, which means pebble in Korean, because the floor was built from pebbles before being developed. Today, it's an absolutely massive, thriving, and hectic seafood market that has pretty much everything you can think of. And if seafood is your thing, you can eat anything you want prepared fresh to be eaten upstairs for an extra table charge of about 5,000 won. There's also a huge alleyway outside to its west that goes on for what feels like multiple kilometers with tons of fish vendors selling just about anything you can find in the ocean. And for those with limited Korean skills who want to experience the hustle and bustle of a Korean fishing market, I don't think there's a better place to try out seafood in the whole country. And if seafood isn't your thing, there are some amazing restaurants back in the BIFF Plaza, such as this place called 18번 Wandangjib, which has been around for over 75 years since 1948, and sells wonton soup at really reasonable prices. It has quite a cozy atmosphere too. I got the Wandang Jongshik. That also comes with a salad and seaweed rice balls. And it was the perfect kind of light meal to not get too stuffed, so you can enjoy the other street food too. It's now the last day of this itinerary, and for the morning today we're going to explore one of Busan's most famous colorful neighborhoods called Kamcheon Culture Village. To get to Kamcheon Culture Village, you can take one of the village buses such as 1-1 or 2-2 near exit 1 of Orange Subway Line number 1's Chagalchi Station and get off at Kamcheon Culture Village stop. And when you arrive, you're at the top of a big hill, with an amazing view of the village right away. Kamcheon Culture Village has quite an interesting history, as it was established by refugees of the Korean War in the early 1950s, as well as the believers of the Taegukdo religious movement that emphasized spiritual enlightenment and cosmic order. At the time, there wasn't much flat land for the refugees to build on, so they started building houses on the mountainside like this to create the village, and as a result, ended up building some very unique and beautiful homes of all shapes, sizes, and colors that has now become one of Busan's most famous places to visit for tourists. The alleyways and houses themselves are a dream for those into photography, as you can get some pretty interesting and unique shots all over the place with the almost random layout, and you can find little art galleries and exhibitions built right into the houses as you walk along. There are also some cafes, restaurants, and gift shops to check out along the way, with some pretty impressive views of the surrounding area near the top. Although I personally enjoy walking around Kamcheon Culture Village with my camera, I've heard it's a bit hit or miss for certain travelers who aren't into this sort of thing. So as an alternative, or if you have extra time for the day, there's another beautiful temple worth visiting in northwest Busan called Pomosa. To get there, take Orange Subway Line number 1 to Pomosa Station, and then ride bus 90 to Pomosa parking lot. Pomosa Temple is located on the mountain Kumjeongsan, in quite a remote location compared to the rest of the things we visited in this itinerary. Apparently it was founded in the year 678 by Isang, a high monk who was one of the Shilla 10 saints. And the name Pomosa means Temple of the Nirvana fish, which comes after a golden fish that's said to have never aged or died that lived in a well at the top of the mountain. The temple has multiple layers of gates to enter into the main area, and although it had a lot of tourists and visitors when we went, it had a really nice peaceful atmosphere to it, just like most temples you visit in Korea. There's a very beautiful set of stairs going up the side of the temple, with stone walls and covered by the trees, which has become one of the most famous spots for photographers, especially in the fall time when the leaves change colors. Also, for those who are interested, there are temple stay programs here too, and the website is linked in the description for those who are curious. Visiting Kamcheon Culture Village and or Pomosa Temple should easily cover your morning and early afternoon, and it's time to finish off the day in true Busan style, where it all started, at Songdo Beach. To get to Songdo Beach, you can take bus 26, 30, 71, or 96 outside Orange Subway Line number 1's Chagachi Station exit 2, or you can take a nice 3-kilometer walk from Kamcheong Culture Village through some old interesting neighborhoods in the Seogu district on the way there. It's the oldest beach in Korea that opened in 1913, which at the time was close to Busan's original city center of Nampodong that we explored on the previous day. When you arrive, you'll notice it's a bit smaller than the other beaches we've visited so far, and used to have a more traditional vibe to it than Haeundae or Gwangalli, with a lot of older buildings, but they are constantly developing, so this might not be the case for long.
너무 달라진 것 같아. 저런 뷰가 아니었는데.
맞아.
와, 근데 저기 갈매기 날아다니는 게 스웩이네.
And of course, you can find a lot of hotels, restaurants, and cafes in the area. We decided to check out an Italian restaurant here called Sanderani, the perfect place for cat lovers. The prices here are incredibly reasonable, and we didn't have high expectations, but we're blown away by the amazing quality here. So we highly recommend it if maybe you're looking for some more familiar tastes after having so much great Korean food on your trip. On top of Songdo Beach being a great place to swim at in the summer, there's a cable car there called the Busan Air Cruise, which goes back and forth to the Songdo Sky Park, which has some nice views and walking trails as well. And if you're on a budget like us, there's a nice walkway next to the beach called the Cloud Walk that goes to Kobokseom, or Turtle Island, to get some nice peaceful relaxing views all the way into the night, to finish off your 4-day Busan trip at the beach that started it all, and enjoy a last relaxing evening before either heading back to Seoul or continuing on to a place like Jeju, which we'll create a guide just like this one for in the future. And that wraps up our 4-day trip to Busan, with hopefully enough activities to consider for travelers of all types. Also, the spots we chose were specifically for those newer to Busan, so they are mostly tourist sites. And to be honest, there are so many more things to see here that even we have yet to explore. So we want to encourage people not to follow this guide to a T, see the things that look most interesting to you, and allocate some extra time just exploring random areas, getting a bit lost here and there, as I think you'll find some nice surprises here and there by doing so. And I know there are a lot of nature lovers out there that watch this channel. And just like Seoul, Busan is also surrounded by beautiful mountains with amazing hiking trails such as Changsan, a 634-meter mountain that takes about 4 to 5 hours round trip from Changsan Station, and has some beautiful views of the entire city from the top, where you can see a lot more than the observatories mentioned earlier in the video. There's an amazing guide done by some people called Brit Adventures online that covers most of the different hikes here, so I recommend checking their website out if you're interested. Now let's take a look at how to get to Busan. Before we start, I'm gonna make an assumption that you're arriving with the purpose to visit Seoul first, and we have a 7-day itinerary video that you can add this 4 days in the middle to make a 2-week trip including Busan and Seoul, with some added rest days in the middle. And to get there from Seoul, it's hard to recommend anything other than the high-speed trains, with the KTX from the biggest company Korail, that leaves right from Seoul Station in the middle of Seoul, costs about 60,000 won each way for the fastest train that takes about 2 hours and 15 minutes, and up to 6 hours for about half the price on the slowest Mugunghwa trains. You can reserve in advance with an international credit card by visiting korail.com or by using the app KorailTalk, and just search for trains from Seoul Station to Busan Station. If you happen to be staying in the Gangnam area in southeast Seoul, you can also take the SRT train, which is a separate company, from Seoul Station to Busan Station for a bit over 50,000 won that takes about 2.5 hours. To reserve it, visit the website etk.srail.kr or use the SRT app, which also takes international cards. And there are also buses to Busan from Seoul for about 40,000 won that take about 4 hours, which you can reserve with the KoBus website or app. Or you can also fly to Busan's Kimhae International Airport directly from multiple countries all over Asia, or even domestically within Korea if that's your preferred method. And now let's talk about when to visit. Busan is one of the warmest places in Korea year-round, and one of the only places that rarely gets any snow. And since it's a beach city, I'd recommend the warmer temperatures from mid-May to late June or early September to mid-October, as July and August are quite hot and humid with the most rain, and also summer vacation for families, so the beaches will be the most crowded during this time. If you aren't planning on swimming, then you'd be fine as early as mid-March and as late as late November to explore around the city with less people and cooler weather. And that wraps up our guide to traveling Busan for first-time travelers. Of course, there are a lot of amazing places here that couldn't make it into the video, and we'd like to make a guide video someday on places in Busan that most tourists don't know about like we did for Seoul, as well as where to stay in Busan. So please subscribe if you're curious, and we also show a lot of lesser known places on our channel all over the countryside while we travel around in our portable home every week. Thank you so much for watching our video, and we hope you have an excellent trip to Busan.